Hey everyone, it's Daniel here from InfoWest. Hope you're all doing well. Today I've got a good one for you. It's about China. Now, China, being one of the biggest economies out there, are one of the big countries that have yet to open up fully. Right? They still have their lockdown mandates. Now, they're easing it up slowly, right? They went from having a 10-day quarantine period to now I think implementing a 7-day quarantine period, and I think eventually it looks like they're getting to a place where they're shortening that quarantine period. Now, you may wonder, why is China still in lockdown? What's going on here? I mean, you could play, you can argue anything, right? I don't know what the true answer is, but I could throw some ideas out there, right? Like, you could argue that China's very worried about the COVID cases that's there. China's using COVID as a way to control their own citizens, so that they have more control. And they're utilizing this as an opportunity. The government's utilizing this as an opportunity for them. Could be a way to get into a move towards digital IDs so you have more control. Or could be more of a east versus west kind of thing, where supply chain has now been disrupted because of these lockdowns, and because China continues to be in lockdown mode, the supply chain is being disrupted, which is basically pushing out higher inflation to all the countries around them, right? Especially the West. So you could say it's a tactic that the China is using during these times, right? So there could be so many reasons of why they're doing what they're doing. Now, here's the thing, right, that no one's really talking about is what happens if China reopens and say, okay, we get rid of all the lockdowns, we get rid of this whole thing that you have to quarantine, we're fully open the gates, boom, let's get back to normal, right? What happens then? So I would think that once China reopens, whenever that happens, I don't know when, but once they reopen, definitely, I can see inflation moving up higher again. Now, why, right? Just a few minutes ago, and in the previous videos, I talked about that, before 2019, China used to, they still do, right? But China was a big player in terms of exporting disinflation, right? Because the West would come out and they would produce products and they would buy products from China at very, very cheap costs, right? Cheap rates. Now with the lockdowns, now with the supply chain issues, and now with energy prices, which feeds into the cost of everything now, since they've all moved up, things have become more costly. Inflation has increased. Things are more pricey for people now, right? Now, if they reopen, does that mean prices should come down now? Well, I think yes and no, right? No in the beginning, because, if let's say China does open up, that does increase demand now. All of a sudden, you got a huge demand inflow that now that China is open, they will need more energy, right? They will need more fuel and so on. So if they're going to be big buyers of energy once they reopen, then definitely energy and fuel will move up in price, which is going to feed into those inflation reports, and inflation is going to again move up again. So crude oil, you can expect to move up high right away when you hear the news that China is reopening. You can expect crude oil to move up in price because of China reopening, right? And on top of that, if you have, China reopening, now they can go and, the citizens there can go fly out, and maybe they may go to Europe, they may go to the West, or may go somewhere to enjoy, let's say, vacation, because they've been stuck all this time in their country, right? So they're probably fed up. They want to go out and they want to enjoy their time. So which means that again, more dollars coming in, prices moving up, things getting expensive again. Now the supply side of things, the supply chain, possibly will probably get fixed over the time, and then maybe you might see a spike followed by a slowdown in prices as the supply chain starts to ease up. Now here's one caveat, one wrench to throw in all this problem is the recession, right? Now what if we get the recession and the big crash all of a sudden and China reopens, right? Does that change anything, right? Maybe initially, for sure, for commodities and energy, I still see that moving up, especially as you've got higher demand. But if an ugly recession comes in and you reopen, will it be the same like it was pre-COVID, before 2019? Will it be the same then? And if not, why? Why wouldn't it be the same? And the reason that I would have that if after a major recession, why things wouldn't structurally be the same is because of business bankruptcies. Already a lot of manufacturing companies within China are being affected. And if those manufacturing companies are being affected and they go bankrupt and they go bust, right? Like we're hearing in Germany and so on, then that creates, again, a supply issue because you have less entrepreneurs, less businesses giving you the products that you need. So if you're going out and you're looking to now buy a certain product in China, they will have less of it because of the recession and the businesses that are going because the businesses are going bankrupt, so they're producing less. So now you've got a recession, you got goods that are being produced less. You've got the China that reopened because they now want business to come in because maybe there's because this recession is ugly and they need something to help with their economy. But because a lot of these businesses are under, you still have not fully solved the supply chain issue, not 100%, because you can't really produce much. So from that angle, you could argue that prices might still stay elevated. So you could play this in many different ways. On top of that, right, without with China opening up, they will also incur a lot more cost for them too, because if they open up, then they're expected to import more energy, more crude oil, which is going to be a cost for them. So, you could argue that also might be another reason for why they continue to be in lockdown, because they don't want to incur that those energy prices, which a lot of countries around the world are being affected by, right? They're being affected by higher energy prices, and they want to avoid that, consume less of that. So let's just keep ourselves in lockdown for now. So there's so many variables that you could talk about left and right for reasons why China is not opening and why they're opening, what could happen once they open. But definitely, I do see that once they do open, I do see that being very positive for energy prices, for energy stocks out there, for crude oil, because you're getting in more demand. And I wouldn't be surprised if the inflation reports start to pick back up when China reopens. So definitely this is something to keep an eye on, that if China reopens, those inflation reports, the energy prices will probably start to pick back up again, which means what for the central banks? Which means that if they reopen, you've got, let's say, China's demand pushing prices up higher again, then the central banks are probably more likely to tighten again, harder and more aggressively, and raising rates, which again would be negative for the equity markets. And you'll probably see equities and bonds sell off and more tightening in the markets in terms of yields as well. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment below, subscribe, hit the like button as well, hit the bell icon to be notified on the next videos, and let me know what you guys think. Are we going to see inflation tick up when China opens? Is China going to open? Are we going to see, China live in this restriction lockdown zone forever? Or is there going to be a time where they do open up? And if you are living in the east side, or you have some insights, or you're living in China, or you're watching this, please share your comments below. I'm very curious of where this would lead to, and what's the thinking over there, of where this lockdown might go towards, especially how the government is handling it. So leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks. Bye.